everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Food and Farm Show. You know spring is almost here when we see these lovely flowers come out on our wisteria. Today we're coming to you from the Hope and Prayer Farm, which is our place right here in Alta Sierra. We've got some exciting news to tell you though about the Food and Farm channel. This week we had our very first 100 view program. That's right, episode number 2 with Lynn Muth and rosebush pruning was the first show to garner over 100 views. Then later in the week, episode number 7 on microgreens, which was last week's program, broke the 100 viewer barrier in only 4 days. So thanks so much for watching. We also have new subscribers, including Aquaponics Romania. So a big hi to you guys out there in Europe that are tuning in and all over the world and finding our Food and Farm show. On today's show, we'll take a trip to the Garden Center at A to Z Supply to learn all about nighttime pollinators with Lynn Muth. Then it's off for backyard chickens with their very own chicken lady, Janie Powers. Finally, we visit with Chuck Shea and the CABPRO organization to hear about their work on preserving our local food freedom. Be sure to join us each week on the Food and Farm channel on YouTube. You can also catch the Food and Farm show on NCTV Comcast Channel 11 and Suddenlink Channel 16 and ACTV Channel 20 in Auburn on Monday nights at 6:30. Then, of course, join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter and tell us all about your farming and gardening adventures. So we have a lot of places to go on today's program, so let's get started. After this short break, it's off to see Lynn Muth and nighttime pollinators. You're watching the Food and Farm show right here on the Touchdown Productions Network. Nevada County Farm Supply has been part of the agricultural scene since 1993. Their staff consists of a certified crop advisor, licensed pest control advisor, and irrigation auditor. In Penn Valley, they have a full-service nursery with over 500 varieties of plants and garden enhancements. In Grass Valley, they have a warehouse full of soil amendments, fertilizers, and nutrients. Nevada County Farm Supply, powerful knowledge and innovative solutions.
Anything Green Hydroponics is your source for hydro systems, grow lights, and soils. Anything Green offers a complete range of organic nutrients as well as fungicides, miticides, and predatory bugs. Anything Green Hydroponics has just received this year's soil. Get your totes, pallets, or individual bags. Stay tuned for future workshops. It's all at Anything Green Hydroponics.
Briar Patch Co-op Natural Foods Community Market offers organic produce from over 30 regional farms and buys local organic produce from farms like River Hill, Sweet Roots, First Rain, Pyramid, and Mooney Flat. You can trust the Patch to hold their producers to the highest standards and always be certified organic. So get to the Patch, the Briar Patch, for organic produce.
Spring is here. Time to visit the Garden Center at A to Z Supply. We have everything you need to plant it, grow it, preserve it, and eat it. With a master gardener and full-time beekeepers on staff, the Garden Center carries a wide selection of organic plants, along with people and pet-friendly products. And don't forget our weekly workshops at the Garden Center at A to Z Supply.
Welcome back to the Food and Farm show. Lynn Muth is one of our local master gardeners and works over at the Garden Center at A to Z Supply. She's going to teach us right now about nighttime pollinators.
I am Lynn Muth. I am an employee of A to Z Garden Center. I'm also a master gardener and have a small landscape business. And tonight we're going to talk about gardening for pollinators. And pollinators. A pollinator is anything that flies into a plant and flies out again, thereby depositing its pollen onto other plants. That's what a pollinator is. Pollinators can be butterflies. Pollinators can be bees, moths, beetles, flies, birds, and bats. In fact, bats and the hummingbird and moth are real important nighttime pollinators. You see some flowers that only open at night. That's where the bats and those hummingbird moths come in, or hawk moths they're also called. The bad thing about the hawk moth is that its larvae is that disgusting tomato worm that decimates your garden. So there's the yin and the yang there with that ugly looking larvae, the worm, and it turns into this incredibly large, beautiful moth about so big. So that's the ups and the downs of that little one. Gardening for pollinators, there's a couple of steps, and I'm going to go over this with you briefly. You want to use a wide variety of plants that bloom from early spring into late fall. Forsythia is one that starts blooming, that's that big yellow bush. Rosemary, while not being a native, does adapt very well to our soil because it's a Mediterranean plant. They bloom all winter. They're very, very important. Native bees come out at various times of the year, and I won't get into their living habits so much right now. I just want to give a general overview of the pollinators. But if you can have something in your yard blooming all the time, you are going to have pollinators. We noticed last week when it was really, really warm, as April said, Dad's girls are out. You could see the little bees are out. We have 3 hives in the back of the store here, and Dan has 12 hives scattered about town. You want to use a very large variety of plants that bloom from early until late fall. And on one of your sheets, the bigger packet of sheets, I'll go over that a little bit more later. You want to plant in drifts or clumps instead of one here and one here and one here, because it makes the pollinator easier to get to that particular flower. So plant them in clumps. Besides that, the design is better anyway than little marching shoulders down the row. Try to plant native plants to our region, or at least plants that have adapted, as I mentioned, the Mediterranean plants. And don't forget night blooming plants also. Last year I planted a night garden around my garden room with moonflowers and a bunch of nicotianas and all kinds of white flowers. And I had so many of those hummingbird or hawk moths. They're pretty fascinating. I was quite pleased. Build it and they will come. Avoid modern hybrid flowers, especially those with doubled flowers. The plant breeders have left out, in their hybridization, they have left out pollen, nectar, fragrance, creating a perfect bloom for us, but it isn't a perfect bloom for the pollinators. And for me, if a plant doesn't have a fragrance, if the fragrance has been bred out of it, what's the point? You know, a lot of hybridized roses right now are no good for pollinators at all because they have no pollen, no fragrance, and just aren't good for pollinators. You want to eliminate pesticides whenever possible. That's my big soapbox, as many of you know. If you must use a pesticide, use the least toxic material available. Read the label carefully. Spray early in the morning, spray late in the afternoon when the pollinators are not out yet. Avoid drift by staying as close to that particular plant as possible. If you will go into the IPM UC Davis website, IPM stands for Integrated Pest Management. They give you all kinds of suggestions, and at the very last resort is when they bring out the big guns, the toxins. People have no idea how dangerous they are. They don't read the labels, and some of the labels are very misleading. They don't say will kill honeybees, are toxic to honeybees. You have to do that figuring yourself if you have to use those sort of things. You want to include larval host plants in your landscape. I kind of put mine at the back of my perennial gardens because the larvae will eat them, and they will be ugly because the larvae are eating them, but then the larvae become butterflies and, you know, other beautiful pollinators. Excuse me. You want to create a damp salt lick for your butterflies and bees, not like my neighbor who has a salt lick for the deer. Dripping hose, drip irrigation, bird bath. I have a bird bath down on the bare soil to create a damp area. You also want to leave some bare spots. They call it black plastic madness when everybody has to have their garden completely covered and then throw mulch over everything, where there's no mud available. Native pollinators depend on mud. That's why mason bees are called mason bees, because as they lay their eggs in their little holes, they are packing each little egg with mud. So mud is real important. Don't let your garden just get so neat and tidy that, you know, it looks like regimented. The pollinators really, really like the mess. They like a dead limb every now and then. They like a little mud over here. So it's best to just have it kind of loosely organized and not so rigidly cleaned up and meticulous. Like my mother's garden was always meticulous. And if you leave dead branches out, or a dead branch on a tree, the pollinators will land in it or dig holes in it and put eggs in it. A lot of people are concerned about the big bee, the carpenter bees, kind of a big bumbly thing. They don't seem to know where they're going. They will not hurt you, and a lot of people want to get rid of them because they think they're damaging their house. Well, they really don't do that much damage, and if you're worried about them, then put out a dead branch or something for them to dig into, because that's how they dig and bury lay their eggs. Excuse me. And you can add nectar by providing a hummingbird feeder. I bet all of you have hummingbird feeders, and I've seen some that, like mine, one in particular always has wasp in it, so I consider it my wasp attractant. You want to make sure you clean your feeders at least twice a week. That's one of those do as I say, not as I do, because I don't clean mine that often. And butterflies need resources other than nectar. They like pretty disgusting things. Rotten food is one of their favorites. You put out a rotten banana and they'll butterflies all over it. I want to introduce you to an organization called the Pollinator Partnership. It's called pollinators.org. This is a booklet that I have printed out of that website, pollinators.org. Fascinating. Most of your stuff is from that book. And what you do, you type in your zip code and it brings up where we live. We are in the Ciaran Steppe, and it talks about Weisapart pollinators getting started, talks about our mixed forest that we live in, meet the pollinators, the plant traits, developing plantings, talks about farms, public lands, home landscapes, gives you bloom periods, plants that attract pollinators, habitat hints, and a checklist. And in this information, it talks about how important pollinators are. Something like 90% of the food we grow is supported by pollinators, and without those pollinators, you can imagine what would happen to the farming industry and to our own vegetable gardens, and that's why pollinators are so important. Excuse me?
And to our food supply.
And to our food supply. In the summertime, when you walk through my gate into my yard, it buzzes. It literally buzzes. You can hear it. I have so many of them. Now, before I became a master gardener, I was terrified of anything flying around in the air because I thought it was going to make a beeline right at me. I grew up in Arkansas. Lots of flying things around there. Since I've become a master gardener and gotten into pollinators, I've discovered that very few of them are aggressive. Very few of them are aggressive. And if you go after trying to kill them, you're going to kill other things too. And if you wait a little while, something's going to come along and eat those aphids. If you wait a little while, something's going to come along and eat that little bug that's chewing on your roses. People say, what do you do about black spot on your roses? Nothing. None of us are perfect. Neither should your garden be. Yeah. And so many people are not aware that the products that they buy to kill that black spot, to kill that powdery mildew, there are other things that can get rid of that without being so toxic and so harmful to pollinators. You really want to encourage pollinators in your yard. So I said bees, butterflies, moths, beetles, flies, birds, and bats are all pollinators. And I gave you, I think it's on page 10 in your handout, plant traits and which flowers do the pollinators prefer. Maybe I didn't give you that one. It's a pretty cool, you'll find this when you go to that pollinators.org. I don't think I included that one because it's pretty basic. Bats like dull white, green, or purple. They don't need a nectar. They like a strong, musty odor emitted at night. Nectar guides. Do you know what nectar guides are? On a flower, a fake flower, on a fake flower, you will see lines that come from the center and go out to the edge of the flower. Even in this little fake flower that closely resembles a sunflower. See how the lines are going into the center? Those are called nectar guides. Look at your flowers sometimes, and there will be, it's almost like they're directing an airplane in, you know, like they do on the runways with the lights. It directs the pollinator into the area where the nectar is, or the pollen is. Nectar guides. Some need them. The only one who really, really needs them are bees and butterflies. But it also talks about flower shapes, talks about the pollen and the nectar. Talks about public lands. If any of you are involved with a park group or one of the, you know, we have so many organizations around town that do so much. If any of you are involved in any landscaping with any of that public land, try to get them to put in natives. Try to get them to put in not hybridized things, because we need to put all this pollinator areas back into our land because we have stripped them so much. You know, you pave and make a parking lot, and it reminds me of the Carole King song, Pave Paradise and Put Up a Parking Lot. It happens all over the place. But our home landscapes are something that we can control, and that's where you really need to get those pollinators in there working. Had a guy come in one day, and he was complaining that he had these beautiful zucchini blossoms, but no zucchini. I said, do you use that stuff in that red cap over there? He said, yeah, a lot. I said, you're killing your pollinators. Why am I killing them? I said, well, it drifts, and it lasts for much longer than you think that it does. So again, be very, very careful. Okay, now I did give you one that says bloom periods. I don't want to go over this because it's just quite time consuming. But it gives you the botanical name, it gives you the common name, and it gives you the bloom time. So if you're out looking in your garden, like right now, and there's nothing blooming, this is on page 16 and 17. And there's nothing blooming, then get something in there that's blooming at the time that you need it. It talks about, this gives you information on trees and shrubs, perennial flowers, vines, and annual flowers.
Are these native flowers?
By and large, these are natives. And then on page 18 and 19, these are plants that attract pollinators for our area. And again, it gives you the common name, it gives you the color and the height, the flower season, what kind of sun it requires, what kind of soil, and what pollinators visited, which I thought was a really, really good section in here. Yeah, there's two of that. And then I want to talk about a basic checklist, and that's on the very back of your packet. You need to become familiar with the pollinators in your landscape, and we have probably, oh my goodness, roughly 40 different pollinators in our area. And some of them come out early in the spring, some of them come out mid-spring, summer, late summer, and fall. So there's pollinators all along. Not so much in the wintertime because they don't like to be cold. The bees don't come out when they're cold. They all huddle together and flap their little wings to keep their body temperature up. But be on the lookout. Watch for them. Watch for their activity throughout the day and the seasons. Keep a simple notebook of when and what comes to your garden. It's been a very illuminating for me to find out, oh my goodness, here it is again. I didn't see it for 2 months, and now it's back again. Could be the time of the year, could be the temperature, could be the flowers that are growing or not growing. Then you want to add native plants to attract more native pollinators. Native pollinators are used to certain native plants, like the ceanothus. It's also called California lilac. Some of them are more attractive to pollinators than others. So study that. I'm going to give you a hint about something that will really help you get more plants going in your garden. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Good. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lynn. That's some great information on nighttime pollinators. And of course, you can see Lynn's segments right here because she's a regular contributor on the Food and Farm Show. Time for our second break of the day, and when we come back, it's off to the land of backyard chickens. Since 2009, Creative Coops has been committed to helping people live a more sustainable lifestyle. Their chicken coops are made right here in Grass Valley. Their innovative design allows for easy expansion for 3, 6, or 10 chickens. Creative Coops keeps your chickens safe from predators, are well ventilated, with spacious nesting boxes, making backyard chickens fun for the whole family. It's Creative Coops, bringing backyard chickens to your home.
Introducing Cuvée Leather Kitchenware. Kitchenware that lasts a lifetime. Made from genuine leather suede, Cuvée kitchenware comes in a variety of colors and has been featured on the Food Network. Leather is the perfect kitchenware. It is a natural insulator, washable, and non-flammable. Cuvée Leather Kitchenware, Chefware, and Tableware. Unique kitchenware to complement your favorite place. Create, entertain, and be you.
Nevada County Farm Supply has been part of the agricultural scene since 1993. Their staff consists of a certified crop advisor, licensed pest control advisor, and irrigation auditor. In Penn Valley, they have a full-service nursery with over 500 varieties of plants and garden enhancements. In Grass Valley, they have a warehouse full of soil amendments, fertilizers, and nutrients. Nevada County Farm Supply, powerful knowledge and innovative solutions.
Anything Green Hydroponics is your source for hydrosystems, grow lights, and soils. Anything Green offers a complete range of organic nutrients as well as fungicides, miticides, and predatory bugs. Anything Green Hydroponics has just received this year's soil. Get your totes, pallets, or individual bags. Stay tuned for future workshops. It's all at Anything Green Hydroponics.
Hi everybody, I'm Janie Powers, the Chicken Lady, and I'm here to welcome you to another segment of Backyard Chickens right here on the Food and Farm Show. Let's get ready. I had a girlfriend that decided that she was going to have meat birds, so she bought 50 chicks, meat chicks. Her plan was that she had an empty horse stall, and she would raise these chicks in the horse stall. Well, that was fine when they were about this big. But when they got about this big, and there were 50 of them in the horse stall, it was really crazy. Fortunately, she didn't have to keep them too long because they matured. And it was time to do the deed, to harvest. She looked at them and said, I can't do this. I can't do it. I thought I could. Thought I could, but I can't. So she ended up stuffing them into the back of her SUV and driving them to a chicken harvest place to have them done. Now, I also have a son who is adopted. He's from China, and they like the natural foods. And they came up to the ranch one time, he and his wife, they live in the Bay Area, and I had a couple of extra roosters. And he said, what are you going to do with these roosters? I said, well, I'm looking for homes for them, but it's hard to find a home for a rooster. He said, oh, I'd like to have one. I said, why do you want a rooster if you have a condo in the Bay Area, in Sunnyvale? He said, oh, well, I'm going to cook it because it'll be fresh and, it'll be natural. And I'm going, oh, I have to see what's going to happen with this. So I say, okay, you can have the chicken. So we get a box, he puts the rooster in the box, I go home, and he puts the box in the garage, and he tells his wife, when I come home from work tomorrow, we're going to have fresh chicken dinner. It's going to be wonderful. So he calls as he's getting home, and he said, I'm almost home, start a big pot of water boiling on the stove, because after you do the deed, you put them in some boiling water, and the feathers loosen, supposedly. She said, well, there's a problem. Don't open the garage door because the chicken has got out of the box and it's running around in the garage. So he parks in the driveway and he goes in and he said, okay, give me the butcher knife. I will go out and do the deed. So he goes out there. The rooster takes one look at him with a knife and he goes, and he goes racing around the garage with my son in hot pursuit. So this goes on for a while, and finally my son says, I bonded with this chicken. I cannot harvest this chicken. And his wife's going, well, we can't keep a rooster in the garage in Sunnyvale. Well, that weekend, they were going to a reunion of his classmates from his province in China, where he was from. And they were going to have a prize. Everybody was supposed to bring a gift that you could exchange. Okay, you know where this story is going. So he puts the rooster in the box, and he gift wraps the box. It looks beautiful. He brings it, he puts it up on the table. A man draws, and it's his turn, and he goes up and he says, I want the big box. He goes up. And my son says, who was the master of ceremonies, said, well, this is a very special gift, and I would like for you to open it here in front of all the other people. And there was about 150 Chinese people there. So he takes the bow off, opens it, the rooster sticks his head up and goes, ah, 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 ah. And the people are going, what's this? And the man says, I love it. I love it. He said, I live, I don't know, someplace out. And he said, I have 2 young daughters. I'm going to take it home, and it's going to be their pet. I thought, yeah, right. But so the man was very happy. My son was happy. I was happy. And the rooster was happy because he didn't get eaten. Chicken tractors either come with wheels like this, or they're sort of a sled version that you can pull around. Now here's a giant chicken tractor. If you have a big one and you have a riding mower, you could rig it up so that you could pull it around with your mower. But to keep in mind, the 2 biggest things with a chicken tractor, it's got to be predator proof, and it must be easy to move. If you're out there hauling it around and coming in rubbing liniment on your shoulder because you were dragging your chicken tractor around, pretty soon you'll decide you won't want to drag it, and that defeats the purpose. So, just to look back on it, the size of your chicken house depends on the number of chickens that you want to have. Remember, you need about 4 square feet per chicken, and it can be a little bit smaller if you have a yard. And I definitely would recommend, if you're going to have a chicken yard, you got to have, a chicken house, you've got to have a chicken yard to go with it. It's just one and the same. I had a lady call me, and she said, I keep losing my chickens. I said, well, tell me about your setup. So she said, well, I have this yard, and it's made out of chicken wire. And I said, is it the big hoe or the little hoe? Because chicken wire comes in 2 sizes. She said, I don't know. I said, well, you do not want the big hoe, because big hoes, raccoons and skunks can reach through there and grab things. And I said, what kind of chicken house do you have? Long pause. Chicken house? I said, yes, where do the chickens go at night? She said, oh, well, I built the chicken yard around a tree, and they can climb up in the tree if they want to. So we won't even talk about why she was losing her chickens. I think it's pretty obvious. You can keep it simple. Like I said, keep it simple on the inside, because the girls don't care. They don't care if there's wallpaper on the walls. But the outside, make it attractive. Make it something that you can go out and bring your friends over, say, would you like a drink? We're going to go out and sit and watch the chickens. It's better than TV. And then it has to be predator proof. Okay, so I have invited my friend here because she came to my class last year and she was a first-year chicken farmer. So I would like to introduce Peggy Burks, and I would like her to just tell you a little bit what it's like to be a first-time chicken person. So do you want to work this? Do you want me to?
Well, is it easy?
If you just push that down, just roll it, that little roller thing down. Okay, and you want to roll it up.
Oh.
You're
that's
famous.
yours. Well, I think she's being generous to call me a first-year chicken farmer, because when I first started, I hadn't had this class, so I did a lot of things that you sure don't want to do. And I came finally to this class a year ago, and I thought, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. So a lot of this is, I was the naive city slicker that arrived after, 40 years living in a city, and I had my dream, and I got 10 acres. I was going to have chickens and miniature horses. And I got them both right away because I didn't want anything to get in the way of that. And you know how life is. If you don't do it right away, sometimes you don't do it. So the first thing that happened is my real estate agent made me this wonderful gift. And he and his wife built this chicken coop, and these 3 chickens arrived. And this was about 2 weeks after I moved into my house. I had no idea. And of course, it was the beginning of November. So, it's winter. And so I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And there were 3 chickens, and he said, I have to tell you, one of them is a rooster. They had gotten hens. They thought that I was going to move much sooner than I did, and blah, blah, blah. So I had these 3 chickens, and I put them into my raised bed garden, which it was winter time, and so that was perfect. I let them out. They had a great time, and it was all fenced. Then we had this little coop. Well, the coop worked pretty well for a while, but it was really hard to take care of. And this little tiny male turned into this great big rooster. And he was a terror. He only had 2 hens. And I hate to, it's a bad story, but he hopped onto these hens and basically picked all their feathers off. And one of them was really in bad shape. And the other one, actually, I came out one day and the other hen was all huddled down and sick. And so I called and I got some advice, and I got a little cage and I got a heat lamp and this and that. Well, that hen died. So then I thought, what am I going to do? By then I had met Janie, and she said, well, maybe you should, think about not having that. My house sitter, a man, had told me, he was there for a weekend, he said I had to go in there with a 2x4. I was scared of this chicken. There's a lot of resources here in the feed store, rehomes, I guess, roosters, and were kind enough to take this gorgeous chicken. So then I was down to 1 chicken, and Janie lent me, which I still have, Hazel. So I had 2. So that was pretty good, but I tell you have to be prepared to have a rooster, and I was not. Then this is what happened. So it was winter time. And this great friend of mine said, well, I'll be able to put a tarp up and we'll get some shelter from the rain and the wind. Remember that giant storm we had? This is what happened. It just tore the thing apart and the place flooded, and I thought the chickens were going to be dead, but they weren't. But it was really something for me to think about. You got to do something about this and get ready for spring. So I did. And I also took this class. So I started off sort of with a new purpose, new chicks. They were really cute. I did put them in the bathroom. And I had this bathtub. This is sitting inside of a bathtub. And it's got, the shavings on the bottom and a little feeder. And it has a little perch they can hop up, if they need to. And temperature, the thermometer there, because monitoring the temperature is really important when they're little. This was right off my bedroom, so I would run in and out, and checking their temperature all the time. Janie said to me, well, you'll do that once, but I bet you'll never have them in your bathroom again. And that's true, I never will. They create this powdery dust that just gets all over everything, and it's really not cool. So finally, I did all this research on the internet, and there's all this stuff you can do and build yourself. I'm a city girl, I didn't even have a saw. I do now. But I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it once. And I wanted eventually to have maybe 10 chickens or something. So I bought this, and I'm not going to tell you what I spent either. It's a place down in Rockland, and it's a model that comes off the Amish farms. But it's really worked out, and the fencing is basically kennel fencing that just clips together. So it may you have to spend a little money, but you don't have to pay much for labor. You can just clip it on, and I can actually do it myself. So it's worked out really well. And of course it matches my house. So you can see it has a little ramp going up to the side, it has a little door that goes in. It has this big old wisteria vine, so in the summer there's a lot of protection there, which is really nice. And let's see here, you can see, I keep doing it the wrong way. There's the little drop-down window for the ventilation. The other window's open on the other side, so you get a nice, good cross breeze. Down below is It was an extra, but you know, it's the clean out. And that opens up and you pull this tray out and it has a really nice liner in it, so it's slick. And you can get and pull this thing all the way out or halfway out. It's really easy to clean. In addition, it does have a door that you can climb into the thing. So it works pretty well, and I'm really happy with that. The other fun thing about it is that there's enough room under that.
And they are big. They have lots of fluffy feathers. And I had one lady, I went to her house and she had a flock of buff Orpingtons. That's all she had, were just the big buffs. And they were walking around her chicken yard and there was a wind blowing, and I tell you, they looked like golden sailing ships with the wind blowing their feathers. They're quite attractive. They're not quite as good a layer, but still, you know, they still lay 110 to 160 eggs a year. That works out to about 3 eggs a week. Now, just to talk a little bit about egg production, some of you may think that a chicken lays an egg every day. No, they don't. I've had people come and say, I have got a hen that's really productive. I looked in the nest box and she had laid 3 eggs. No, 3 hens had used that nest box. A hen usually lays an egg every 26 hours. So let's just say the hen lays an egg at 9 o'clock in the morning. The next day she may lay the egg about 10 o'clock. She's not looking at her clock and saying, got to lay an egg now. But what happens is if they lay an egg, say every 26 hours, then pretty soon it's going to get to the point where it gets dark. They don't lay in the dark. So when they started laying until the daylight goes away and they quit laying, that's called a clutch. That's when you hear people say they've got a clutch. So for some hens, a clutch could be 6 eggs because they can lay one almost every day. And other hens, a clutch may be smaller. And then they're going to take a day off. And then they're going to start laying again. So even your best layer will not give you an egg every day. So you have to sort of consider that. Even the leghorns that we looked at, the top layers, they only lay about 280 eggs a year. So if you're thinking that you have 3 hens, you're going to get 3 eggs a day. Probably not. So keep that in mind when you're determining how many chickens you think you need for your family. Americanas, these are not that attractive a bird. They are sort of they're the little brown bird that you talk about. But the wonderful thing about Americanas is that they're the ones that lay the green eggs. And if you're lucky, you may get one that lays a blue egg. And sometimes the hens that lay green eggs will lay blue eggs. And it's always fun to go out and find a green egg out there with all your brown ones. They're very hardy birds, and if you should have chicks, they make a very good mother. You can pick them out from other brown birds. They have what's known as a muff around their ears. I like to think of it as a chicken with sideburns. They're very good birds. Like I said, they're not your showy chicken, but they just go about their business laying eggs, and they're very good for a backyard chicken flock. And here's a different kind of breed. This is one that I sort of discovered, and I really like her, so I recommend her to people. This is the Delaware. They're a large bird. They're quite attractive. They're white with little black speckles on the neck and on the tail. And usually people think if you have a white chicken, it will lay white eggs, but a Delaware lays brown eggs. They like to go out and scratch about and look for things. They come from the state of Ohio. You might gather that, Delaware, Ohio. And back in the 40s, they were quite popular. Everyone had Delaware chickens in their chicken yard.
Thanks a lot, Janie. There's so much to learn about chickens. We're so glad you're joining us here each week on the program. Time for another short break, and when we return, it's off to meet Chuck Shea and Cab Pro and learn what they're doing to protect our local food freedom.
Briar Patch Co-op Natural Foods Community Market offers organic produce from over 30 regional farms and buys local organic produce from farms like River Hill, Sweet Roots, First Rain, Pyramid, and Mooney Flat. You can trust the Patch to hold their producers to the highest standards and always be certified organic. So get to the Patch, the Briar Patch, for organic produce.
Spring is here. Time to visit the Garden Center at A to Z Supply. We have everything you need to plant it, grow it, preserve it, and eat it. With a master gardener and full-time beekeepers on staff, the Garden Center carries a wide selection of organic plants, along with people and pet-friendly products. And don't forget our weekly workshops at the Garden Center at A to Z Supply.
Introducing Cuvée Leather Kitchenware. Kitchenware that lasts a lifetime. Made from genuine leather suede, Cuvée kitchenware comes in a variety of colors and has been featured on the Food Network. Leather is the perfect kitchenware. It is a natural insulator, washable, and non-flammable. Cuvée Leather Kitchenware, Chefware, and Tableware. Unique kitchenware to complement your favorite place. Create, entertain, and be you.
Since 2009, Creative Coops has been committed to helping people live a more sustainable lifestyle. Their chicken coops are made right here in Grass Valley. Their innovative design allows for easy expansion for 3, 6, or 10 chickens. Creative Coops keeps your chickens safe from predators, are well ventilated, with spacious nesting boxes, making backyard chickens fun for the whole family. It's Creative Coops, bringing backyard chickens to your home. Welcome back to the Food and Farm Show, everybody. You know, we have had so much fun making this show for the last 7 weeks, learning about vegetables and planting and composting. But what if we didn't have those rights? At the Food and Farm Show, we believe that the right to grow food and share it with everybody is God-given. Chuck Shea and the local CAPRO organization are working hard to make sure that your food freedom is preserved here in Nevada County. Let's meet him right now.
There's been a lot of things going on under the guise of food safety. And the question is do we have the right? The answer is yes. It's one of those inalienable rights. It's our right to get food and eat what we want. We got this weird thing that's out there we keep hearing. Aren't we all consenting adults? You know, do I look like I passed up a Big Mac or a big gulp occasionally? No, I don't. So where do we get those rights? Those are inalienable rights granted to us by God. Nobody has any authority to take those rights. That's kind of what we were talking about tonight. And so the question is, when did we transfer those rights to the government? I did not. And I did not give them the authority to do that. So the question is, are we operating under permission or are we operating under freedom? I go for freedom. Last year we had a constitutional class going on, put on by a young husband and wife, bought it and had this guy come. And the man talked about the Constitution. And he says, do you realize the government cannot violate your constitutional rights? Well, I was like a John Belushi movie in the back. And he goes, no. He goes, really? The government cannot violate your constitutional rights if they operate within the confines of the Constitution. Okay? When they operate outside of it, and it's specified, it is criminal. Okay? So, within, we give them those rights. We, the people, give them those rights. When they go outside of it and start regulating beyond that, it is a criminal action. Okay? Now, we've all forgotten all this stuff, and we're all too busy retiring and trying to raise kids and pay bills and wondering where the money's going to come now that we're losing 4% a month just on depreciation of our dollar. Let me click the next one. So, things we wanted to quickly go through is AB 1616, the Cottage Food Bill. That was just passed by the state. It's not a county thing, but the county's going to have to enforce it and regulate it. It was passed by the state, but it had an interesting start. The California Grange put forward something called the Cottage Food Bill, the food sovereignty, which was a reaffirmation of our right to have our own food. Well, the statewide county environmental health groups, click through one more, see if I got them down there. Yeah, the guidelines for this got morphed into prepared by the Central Valley Food Technical Advisory Committee of the California Conference of the Directors of Environmental Health, with the input from the, whatever they are, Southern California, Northern California, Central Valley Food Technical Advisory Committee. The Grange said, we have a right to have food, thank you very much, and the state was going to pass that. Then they got sideways with some baker that was trying to sell bread at a farmer's market or something. He wasn't approved, and some LA guy got in, and next thing you know, we've got this draconian law that's coming through that is now going to have county people coming on your property to inspect your kitchen in accordance to this new act. I'm going to click to the next one. So this is theirs. They said their locally grown and produced food is becoming more prevalent today. Law that governs these operations do not allow for the sale of food prepared in a home kitchen. Oh, we have to have a law before we can cook food? Setting standards that preserve public health while still allowing for economic opportunity has become a challenge for state and local officials. When did it become their challenge? It must be because we've got bodies stacking up all over the place. Now I'm going to pick on Chris Beerwagon. Everybody know Chris with his great apple juice? You see all those bodies on the freeway down there drinking that apple juice? Now the county has been on his case a couple of times, and he spent thousands of dollars trying to meet their requirements. Now Chris's old man would have thrown him off the property, but he's gone. And Chris wants to go along to get along. He's a good man, and he wants to comply with government. Okay, so this is what they're concerned about, you know. So go ahead to the next one. So again, this is the states. These guidelines are intended to provide guidance to local health jurisdictions and environmental health agencies that regulate Class A and Class B cottage food operators. Oh, so now we're cottage food operators. CFOs, I'm a CFO now, not the kind I used to hearing, are encouraged to adopt these guidelines to promote uniform statewide interpretation and enforcement of the California Retail Food Code. The law requires that the California Department of Public Health to carry out certain tasks associated with implementation and imposes certain responsibilities on local plan and environmental health jurisdictions. Look what the state dropped on the county. Okay? Anybody see Farmageddon? Anybody remember what happened to James Stewart at Rawson Foods? Or the, I love this guy, the Amish farmer that finally the sheriff says, I'm out of this thing. It's getting carried away. Now they're in our house, they're in our kitchen, they're going to regulate our food. It is beyond reason. Next one, please. So, this is what the California Grange came up with, titled Food Sovereignty Resolution. It was proposed by an agricultural commissioner, Mendocino, Pomona, Marshall, Clovis, and Sanger, and what it was supposed to be was just a reaffirmation of our right for food. Next one. Okay, let's review the county permit. The county permit, now you can go on the website, and she brought a whole bunch of them. They're on the table if you want to look at them. What does this permit do for you? The permit becomes a contract the minute you sign it. Okay, you go, what? What does that mean? When you read this thing, just all the way through this, it says, on each item, initial if you agree to abide by the following. That becomes a contract, okay? That becomes a contract. Now the county has absolute right, above the law, above your constitutional rights to come in because you just agreed to allow them to do this, to agree to all these points. Okay? Compliance. Okay, so they will have, with this, unlimited access to the property, and you're going to pay fees, penalties, and fines on whatever they may find. Now, let's stop there and let's go back to code enforcement. What's going on there? Now, we're hearing some pretty draconian, nasty stuff happening in there. Okay, how long before we have those same questions coming up on this? When someone's got that bake sale at the church that's illegal now, okay? So, go to the next one, please. Okay, so there's a number of things. Do we comply with this and go along, permission, or do we stand freedom and say no? And we've been talking around about AB 1616 opting out. That, no thank you, I choose not to participate because it's my constitutional right. Okay, two parts of it. One's the Class A, which is direct sales only, so your neighbors, friends, people come to your farm or your house. The other one is Class B, direct and indirect sales. So and you correct me if I'm wrong, that's if you want to sell to Briar Patch or a farmer's market or something else like that. This is a brand new law. It just came in. This was actually dumped in on the county. They were trying to figure out what to do with it. So at what point do we say no? Isn't it we the people? Yes. Okay. So back up, Tom. Use the toggle. Okay, so it gets back down to, we're talking again, property rights, your rights as individuals, rights as citizens. Okay, one, refuse to sign up for the permit, carry on as you always have been. Do not allow county EH personnel on your property. They don't have a right. They can get a warrant and it can be served by the sheriff. And that is confirmed with Keith. I told Keith, bro, what's going on? He goes, hey, somebody wants on your property, they got to have a warrant from a local judge and I'll serve it. If I don't show up, that's it. Now, we've had a lot of complaints on the code enforcement guys out there running around. People are intimidated. What's next? We are starting a CABPRO community assistance support thing, which is basically a phone tree. We're going to be kicking on a toll-free line. Folks can call in if they're having any challenges with anything. Give us a call and let us know. Next one. Oh, back up real quick. This is a key one. Civil obedience. Everybody always, all the hippies from the 60s and 70s, which some of you were, and you, Dennis, is Bill. We've always heard civil disobedience. And, oh yeah, we're going to be civil disobedience. No, that's wrong. We want to be civil obedient to the laws of this nation. Okay? The county and the government, and we're seeing it throughout all forms of government, are now starting to operate out of the confines of our rights. They are being civil disobedient. Okay? Now, this is something I'm glad I got you guys here. Anybody remember Nuremberg? Okay, following orders doesn't apply. This is the people. You're part of us. You're part of the people. You all live here. We all grow the same food. You know, I'm the best one, and I'm gonna rat on someone right now. Sydney Siegfried in planning makes the best homegrown mustard. She's scared to death to sell it or do anything with it now. You know, I'm missing my mustard. It was great. She won't do it. Okay, so the other one is we're asking farmers and stuff to step up, participate in the phone tree, and let us know what's going on. Next one, please. Okay, where CABPRO is right now, we already have resolutions and ordinances to protect the local food systems written and in place, and we actually formed a food committee a couple of weeks ago at Briar Patch, and the food committee is going to start working on this stuff. But the resolutions and ordinances have been put in place, and they're designed to go to the county, designed to go to Nevada City, Truckee, and Grass Valley, that the cities will reaffirm the people's right to have food. Now, this ain't new here. We're plagiarizing everything we're getting from Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Utah, radical people. Hill City in Utah has a great ordinance that's been put in place. It's the people reaffirming our rights. I mean, we need to kind of get back to community. Community's fun. We all know each other, fence hanging. You know, hey, I'm going to go down to Chuck's and get a chicken. Oh, what are you going to do? He charges $15. Oh, I'm going to trade him some melons, or I'm going to bring him some bread. We're going to trade it. You know, that's where we need to get to. We also have a local and community self-governance ordinance that's been written. These things are here. We have a couple of attorneys that are floating around and giving us this. And we've basically plagiarized from other cities. We are going to start moving that thing forward. Tom? So, here's another one. Home rule resolution. This ties into this. In 1993, Nevada County adopted a home rule resolution. And everybody's going, yay, that's great. And then it, like everything else, just kind of went flat. But it's still there, and it's still valid. So we actually have a legislative committee in CABPRO, and we are looking for more members to participate in that, to re-expand the home rule resolution to home rule law. Now that already exists in this state. It exists in Colusa County. And by adopting a home rule in Nevada County, it takes our supervisors to the level of the legislature. And we can say, yes, we're going to operate with this, we're going to operate, no, we don't want that one, thank you very much. It gives us that kind of ability. And so home rule is a big deal, so you'll see that coming out, and we are looking for folks to participate on that legislative committee. Home rule is different. It doesn't have to go to the supervisors. It's that crazy thing again called we the people. It's a ballot measure, and it passes by majority vote, simple majority. And once it's done and adopted, and Marshall will throw a cup at me if I'm wrong about this, once it's adopted, it goes down to the Secretary of State where he stamps it in, and bam, it's done. It comes back and puts it in the county. And that puts us now into home rule. Gets us more control of our own lives and here in our county. What's interesting about this, where we're going with all this, is anybody aware of what's going on in Cyprus? With the bank closures in Italy? Okay. Money is cratering. We're losing all that stuff. And if we have a financial collapse, we already know the money's going to hell. How are we going to feed ourselves in this county? I think we can. We've got great soil, we got great water, we grow crops, we got animals, we can feed ourselves. But we don't need the government telling us how to do it. Okay? So what we're asking you all to do is, if you haven't done it already, and this is kind of a follow-up from our food freedom thing we had up at Briar Patch 2 weeks ago, join Cabro, the basic membership, serve on one of our committees. The Food Freedom Committee is part of it, the Legislative Home Rule Committee. We're looking for 8 to 10 members on this. Some of this is already formed. And we have some assignments working on resolutions, ordinances, opt-out, phone tree, and all that. Next one. Okay. We already talked about revitalization in the forest. Next one. And that's it. That's what CABPRO's up to provide a quick one.
Thanks a lot, Chuck, for working on those important issues for our community. Well, what do you think, Zuby? I think you're right. Another hour has gone by and time to close out the Food and Farm Show. But thanks for staying here with us and watching another episode. Be sure to join us on the Food and Farm Show channel on YouTube, and of course our weekly telecast on NCTV, ACTV in Auburn, and of course join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter and tell us all about your farming and gardening ventures. This is Gil Dominguez. We'll see you next week right here on the Food and Farm Show. Good night, everybody. Be sure to join us each week right here on NCTV Channel 11 at 6:30 to 7:30, and of course on our YouTube channel, The Food and Farm Show.